Chapter 34. A New Mission. It had been 6 years since the fight in the council room and Naruto had not stepped foot in it since then. Tsunade had almost begged him to come back, saying that he isn't helping his image to become a Hokage. His reply had been simple: if they want me in that room then they need to apologize to my wife. Tayayu had found it sweet but still a bit stupid of him to be holding this grudge for her. She honestly didn't get a shit what those old bastards thought. She didn't care if the other clans agreed. The only people that's opinion mattered to her was her husband and daughters. They had also been talking about having another child, hoping to have a boy. At the moment though they were standing in Suon's office. We have a mission that requires both of you to go. The married couple looked at her with a rose eyebrows until the blonde man spoke. What do you mean both of us? You know we don't want to leave the girls alone in this village. Tsunade nodded her head. I know Naruto. That is why I will you bring the girls over to my estate while you are gone. Living in the house with the two of you the poor girls could use some normalcy. Naturally the redhead had a shot. Then why are we giving them to you? Tsunade gave a mock glare at Tayayu while she smirked confidently. Okay, well the mission is fairly easy, it's just far and in dangerous area for either of you. That being said, I wanted you both to go so that you can cover each other's back. Naruto looked at Tayayu then gave a grunting agreement. Fine, but my children better be well protected, Tsunade Bachan. She looked at him a bit offended. Of course I am going to protect my grandchildren. Who do you think that you are talking to? Tayayu sighed. That isn't what he meant. What is the mission? Tsunade looked through her files then found it. The land of Earth has a corrupt politician who is inflating the charges on our trade to an extreme amount. So the mission is to assassinate him and his wife since she is apparently the voice in the background telling him what to do. Here are what the targets look like. Tayayu grabbed the file and opened it but instantly dropped it with wide eyes. Naruto looked at her with confusion before he picked up the file. The man didn't look like anything but the woman looked like an older version of Tayayu. Naruto looked at the picture then at his wife as he remembered the story she had told him all that time ago, Tayayu Koi. She didn't say anything then turned. I am going home to start packing, Naruto-kun. He just looked at her with worry as she left. Tsunade looked at the back of Tayuyu's disappearing head then at Naruto. Care to explain what that was all about? Naruto continued to look at where his wife had disappeared to. It's not my place to say. Let's just leave it is extremely personal to her. With that the blonde-haired Jinchuriki back home. At the Uzumaki compound, Naruto reappeared in the living room of his home to see both of his daughters sitting on the couch. He gave them both a kind fatherly smile. You two need to go get packed for about 2 weeks. Your mother and I have a mission and you will be staying with grandma. Both girls nodded their heads before running up to their rooms. Naruto turned around to see his wife open the door to their home. He stood there staring at her as she tried to go around him. Naruto gently took hold of her wrist to get her to stop. Tayayu-chan, please talk to me. She looked at him slowly then sighed. What is there to talk about? We have to go and kill them. I have been waiting for this moment for a long time. I finally get my revenge. Naruto looked at her with concern. Tayayu-chan, are you going to be okay on this mission? She nodded her head at him. I will be perfectly fine, Naruto-kun. Where are the girls at? He motioned upstairs with his head, packing. She nodded her head then went to walk away as he wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her close to him. Naruto stared at her with his blue fox-slit eyes. Tayayu Koi. I know how it feels to be wrapped up in the idea of revenge. You can't give in to it. If you need someone to beat on then you have me, but don't become obsessed and remain in control. Tayayu looked at him then put her hand on his cheek as she gave him a light smile. You're sweet when you want to be. The man smiled then kissed his wife gently. When he leaned his forehead against hers he just looked at her. I must be sweet all the time since I always try to be. Go get ready dear while I take the girls to Tsunade. She nodded her head and when she turned he gave her a quick smack on the ass. She looked over at him with a smirk. Careful there sweetie or I will be getting my son sooner than expected. Naruto smirked. Promises, promises. The girls came back downstairs stopping their conversation where it was. The two girls smiled at their mother as she came up to them. Makoto, watch your little sister while we are gone, okay? You know how she is. Makoto nodded then gave her mom a hug. Yes, Ka-san. The older woman gave a smile then looked over at her little 6-year-old girl. Now Carrie, don't be too much like your father while we are gone. Tsunade is a pain in the ass, but only mommy is allowed to torture her. Make sure to practice your chakra control because we are going to be testing you when we get home. Carrie nodded her head, then ran over to Naruto as he picked her up to twirl her around, making her laugh. Naruto put her down on the ground. Behave while we are gone, Carrie, and I will take you for ramen. Listen to Makoto and Tsunade Bachan, okay? She nodded her head, then he looked over at Makoto. Look after your sister for me, okay Makoto? Makoto nodded at her father as he leaned down and hugged his oldest daughter. He gave both his girls a kiss on the cheek, then used a shadow clone to take them to Tsunade. Naruto smiled at his girls, then looked at his wife. Let's go get dressed for our mission, Koi. She nodded her head before the two of them went upstairs and started to pack. Naruto smiled as he looked up at her. So, when we get back, if you want, we can really focus on trying to have another kid to Yuya. Said woman looked up at him, then winked. Pervert, just trying to get me into bed, aren't you? Naruto laughed, then nodded his head before putting his backpack on and looking at Yuya. Ready? She nodded her head and him, then they both flashed to the gate. When the two of them got there, they both gave a look back at the Hokage monument where the Hokage tower was just under. Naruto gave a sigh. I hope those two will be okay. Maybe I should send word to Gaara to have him make a surprise visit to help protect them. Yuya shook her head. Come on Naruto-kun, let's get our mission over with. As you like to say, promises, promises. He smirked, then nodded before they leapt off into the forest, heading towards the land of Earth. They both knew that they were going to be worrying about the girls, so as they were going, Naruto made a clone and sent it to Sunagakure to get back up. Both of their kids knew Gaara and the other Sand siblings well, thinking of them as Uncle Gaara, Aunt Mari and the guy with makeup. That was mainly due to Naruto though, and since Yuya found it funny, never stopped it. The best part about the whole situation was when Kankuro tried to, as he said, scare them straight, he was attacked by Sand. Since Gaara was on their side about the situation, he has to this day remained makeup guy. Naruto looked over at Yuya, who was looking at him. I just want to make sure they are safe. I don't trust the council a bit. She nodded her head at him, then they both picked up their speed towards the land of Earth and the capital. Just outside the land of Earth, Naruto and Yuya landed just at the edge of the forest, then looked at one another. So what's the plan, Naruto-kun? The man untied his headband, then sealed it along with his pouch. Well, we are just a starry-eyed traveling couple on our way to the capital. Yuya smiled and nodded as she took off all the ninja-related gear and handed it to Naruto. He sealed everything into the same scroll, then held out his hand for her. She smiled as she took it, then leaned her head on his shoulder as they headed towards the capital at a normal civilian's pace. It would take them a bit longer, but it was better in the end since it would make it harder for a censor to pick them up. Naruto smiled at his wife as he kissed her forehead. It's almost like the honeymoon we never got to have. His red-headed wife smirked. Well, we are still going to have that one day. Naruto smiled, then looked forward. Well, if we do have another child, it won't be for a while. Her smirk turned to a full-blown smile. Maybe it could be a honeymoon that gets me pregnant. The man turned his head towards her. If you want a honeymoon where we try to get pregnant again, then that is what we will do. First we have to finish our mission and then we can talk to Tsunade about it, okay Koi? She smiled and nodded her head, then they kept walking. It took them a day and a half to get to the capital, but when they did they were about to enter without suspicion. Capitals tended to get a lot of foreign traffic, so a traveling couple wasn't something unusual. Naruto smiled at Yuya as they walked towards a hotel so they could start to recon the area to how they are going to do this. They found a nice hotel and rented the room for a week before they headed out to recon the area around the Capitol building. They both knew who the targets were, so the first thing to do was try and figure out what their daily routine was. It seemed normal all in all. The primary target of Taki was preoccupied by work until the evening, while the woman named Tia did housewife things until her husband came home. Naruto and Yuya both knew what the best way to do this was, to make it look like a breaking and entering where the criminals murdered the victims. Naruto decided that they should wait a day to actually commit the act, then looked at Yuya. He stared at his wife. I will take the husband and I will let you deal with her. I know that is what you want. Whatever you do to her, make sure that you don't make it look like a ninja. Only use kunai, okay? She nodded her head. This isn't my first time doing sabotage, you know. The man just stared at her, his blue fox-slit eyes just staying locked on her. Yes, but this is the first time where it has been personal for you. Tayayu looked up at her husband then smiled a bit. I promise, no chakra will be used Naruto-kun, but it comes at a price. He rose his eyebrow at her as she smirked. We have this whole suite to ourselves with no kids to worry about. That means I don't have to worry about how loud I need to be. Naruto sighed as he looked at her. I thought that I was the pervert. He gave her a smirk then winked as she came around the table at him. She approached him slowly as he backed up a little. You are a pervert Naruto-kun, but lucky for you so am I. The blonde Jinchuriki smirked as he motioned for her. Come and get it Haim, I will wear your ass out good tonight. Her blush matched her hair then she dove at him and he pinned her to the bed. Calm yourself Koi, you need to pace yourself or else you will pass out too early on me. He gave her a wink before she growled at him and he knew all too well what that really meant. To be continued.